At some point in my early 20s, the topic of cursing came up with my dad, and he almost never cursed growing up. And he told me why. He said that he never cursed because when he did, he wanted it to mean something. He wanted it to have meaning. And honestly, people throw around curse words, whatever word you want to choose, people throw them around to the point where they have no meaning anymore. And that's fine. Like, I have no objection to that, actually. But if you don't use them and then you do use them, they have a lot more meaning. And why the heck am I talking about this? Well, because apologies are the exact same way. And I had somebody apologize to me recently, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. I had somebody apologize to me recently, and I thought, you don't need to apologize for anything. And the big lesson that I have for you today that I want to emphasize for you that's going to make you more successful in business and in life, and it's going to lead to better relationships, both personal and professional, is apologize less. Apologize less. Way too many people apologize way too much. And if you apologize less, it makes it something special. So let's talk about apologies today. These are the proven direct response marketing, copywriting, and entrepreneurship success strategies you can use today to write your own ticket and create the life you want. I am Roy Furr, and this is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Now, here's today's breakthrough. So I had somebody who I needed to schedule something with. And I'm not even going to go into who or what was being scheduled. But basically, this is somebody, we were scheduling something. Both of us agreed it needed to be scheduled. And when I first started talking to him about scheduling it, he said, you know what, right now is not a great time. I'm very busy. And at the beginning of November, I'll be ready to actually do the scheduling, right? And so he just wasn't even ready to consider scheduling until the beginning of November. So November 2nd or something, November 3rd, I sent him a note and said, hey, it's time to schedule. Actually, maybe it was after that. The exact date doesn't matter. But I said, hey, it's November. It's time to schedule. So basically, I followed up when he requested it. And it took a day or two. I don't know exactly. But he scheduled after the follow-up. And the first thing in his message back to me saying that he had scheduled, that he'd gone through my calendar link, etc. The first word was sorry. Man, my first reaction to that was, you have nothing to apologize for. You're busy. You told me you were busy. You told me you couldn't schedule right away. You gave me a time at which you were ready to schedule, or at which you would be ready to schedule. I reached out to you at that time and you scheduled. There is nothing there to apologize for. And the reality is that, I don't know, especially in Western English speaking cultures, apologies are rampant. Like, we apologize all the time, and we are trained to apologize all the time. And sometimes it's overt apologies, like, hey, sorry I didn't do this, sorry I did this, sorry for really anything, sorry for existing, sorry for taking up space, sorry that, like, we crossed paths in the grocery store. I mean, sorry for everything. But then there's a whole bunch of other apologies that are not as overt, that are much more subtle, where it's, hey, I know your time is valuable. That is apologizing for taking the person's time instead of actually treating the time like it's valuable and just delivering value to match their time. The first thing you're doing is you're saying, thanks for taking this appointment. I know your time is valuable. That is an apologetic stance, even if you're not explicitly apologizing or explicitly using the words. Or it's okay if you don't want to, but maybe you can. Now, there is an appropriate place. I have this favorite saying that I actually picked up from a guy that I worked with, part of an ad agency that I was working with when I was working with the IT training company. And he would call up and he would say, I need to talk to you about this. I need about 15 minutes. Is now a good time? And no is a perfectly acceptable answer. Okay, that's the message behind it's okay if you don't want to. Like that's the deep message. It's okay if you don't want to. Or I guess surface. Well, that's the intent, right? Behind it's okay if you don't want to. But it comes from a place of respecting the person's time, of saying, hey, I have something valuable. And also, I know that right now may not be the right time, especially if this is an interruptive call. And actually, he would even do this for a scheduled call. Hey, we're scheduled for 30 minutes. Is this still a good time? And no is a perfectly acceptable answer. He was always doing that. And the funny thing was, it's unapologetic. It's just direct. And I was always, always happy to say yes when he would say no is always an acceptable answer. He wasn't apologizing for taking the time. He was just giving me the out if it was no longer an appropriate time or a good time to have that conversation. Versus, hey, I think that we could maybe do this, but it's okay if you don't want to do it, but maybe we could do it. There's such a like, I'm not good enough attitude in there. And really the truth behind so many of these apologies, where we get in this habit of constantly apologizing for everything, the truth behind it that we are conveying is that like we feel like we're not good enough. We feel like we're not valuable, like our contribution is not valuable. We feel like we don't offer like any worth to the situation, to the relationship, to the conversation, to the whatever. And if we think that, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not valuable, I'm not worthy of being here, we're going to constantly be apologizing. We're going to be apologizing for being in the room. We're going to be apologizing for being in the conversation. We're going to be apologizing for taking up space. We're going to be apologizing for taking time. We're going to be apologizing for everything. And it is in all those apologies that we actually remove ourselves from actually being in there and providing value. And we actually lessen the value that we're able to provide when we are in that space of just constantly apologizing for existing. And that's a really like, I understand that all those feelings are real. And if you can't confront them, if you can't just feel them and then find a way of like being in that space and being okay with taking up space and taking up time and asking people for things and having needs and like wanting to present something to a person that you think would give them value. If you can't feel those feelings and then find a way to make sure that you are providing value to them, then you do need to go back to this like, I don't know, it's this internal work that we need to do. And that's a whole like deeper topic. But the question that helps you figure out if this is the work that you do need to be focused on like, how can I recognize that I am good enough? How can I recognize that I am valuable? How can I recognize that I have something that is worthy? How can I recognize that I deserve to have a voice, that I deserve to speak up, that I deserve to have needs? Like the question that you ask is, am I apologizing too often and for things that don't matter, right? Do my apologies even mean anything because I'm just using them way too often? So if you do want to show up in a way where you're not being constantly apologetic, what needs to be true is you do need to make sure that what you're offering is valuable. I think that one of the things that can happen is, if you just feel like you're trying to get something from somebody without actually providing value to them, and value can take a lot of different, it can be measured in lots of different ways. So, for example, let's say you want to have coffee with somebody. I'm thinking this is a few years back, but for whatever reason it came to mind. There was an investment fund out of a neighboring city, and I met this guy. I can't remember if I met him online or I met him at a local event for like startups or whatever, but I met him and I said, hey, I enjoy talking to you. Maybe we could have coffee together. Now, I didn't actually realize at the time, I don't think that he lived 60 minutes away, but I think he was going to be in town anyway. So it wasn't a big inconvenience to like drive to where I was to have coffee. But I said, hey, we should have coffee together sometime. And if I had gone to that not being able to have a conversation that he would think was valuable, then I think that it like the negative feeling that would have come out of that would have justified maybe an apology. But I knew that I could talk to him about business and investing and startups and all of that, and just have a good conversation with him and provide some value in that. He could always leave the coffee 20 minutes in versus an hour in or whatever. Like I made sure that what I was offering was valuable enough. And if all that I wanted to do was like some, like to be a time vampire to him, then maybe I did need to apologize for taking his time. But I made sure, what needs to be true. Number one is make sure what you're offering is valuable. I made sure that what I was offering was valuable in that conversation so that it was worth him spending 60 minutes with me. Number two is don't treat people like crap where a real apology is needed. There are people who just happily exploit other people who are doing things that are negative, that are taking away from people without giving anything in return. And if that's what you're actually doing, yeah, you actually do need to apologize. But the reality is that that type of person probably doesn't have a habit of apologizing constantly. The people who have the habit of apologizing constantly are probably the people who need to apologize the least because they are the most self-conscious of their behavior and the impacts that it's having on people. If you're treating people like crap, you're probably doing it unapologetically, and maybe you do need to apologize more. But what needs to be true, number two, is don't treat people like crap. What needs to be true, number three, is save apologies for when they're really needed. So if you screw up, if you do legitimately waste somebody's time because of your own like misuse of their time, you schedule an appointment and you blow it off and you realize 10 minutes after the appointment was supposed to end that you just completely wasted it, or that you just didn't show up for it, then you send an apology and you say, hey, I understand, I screwed up here, and I apologize for that. And you don't make excuses or anything like that, right? You legitimately apologize when you legitimately need to apologize. But then when you don't legitimately need to apologize, don't. And you can do that comfortably knowing that you have permission to take up space in the world, to take time, to have needs, to want something, to have a voice, to speak up. You don't need to apologize for speaking up. You don't need to apologize for having an opinion. You don't need to apologize for your beliefs. You don't need to apologize for asking someone for time and having them actually give you that time. You don't need to apologize for any of that. Notably, as long as you respect that I also, like if you're speaking to me, I also have permission to say no. If we schedule a call and I say, it looks like we're reaching the end of the call, I have a little bit of flexibility here, maybe 5 minutes to run over. Do you have flexibility to run over? If you say no, then I need to wrap it up on time. If you say yes, you don't need to apologize to me because I offered a little bit of extra time. And that's happened to me plenty of times before too. Or you ask for a little bit of extra time as we're getting to the end of the call. And I say, you know what? I have something else scheduled, so it's not going to work. I have permission to say no, right? I have permission to say no 20 minutes into an hour-long call when I say, you know what? This just isn't a fit. Then anything you push beyond that is wasting time and worth an apology. But anything that you don't is like not something that you need to apologize for, right? As long as everybody in a situation has permission to say no, and this is specifically time apologies because that seems to come up a lot. As long as everybody in a situation has permission to say no to get out of spending their time there, and that's established, then you don't need to apologize for taking time. You just need to provide value. You just need to make sure that you are honoring their time. And this has all sorts of relevance. And the reason that I feel comfortable talking about this during Breakthrough Marketing Secrets, which is about, marketing techniques and tactics and principles and strategies, is there is all sorts of relevance to copywriting, to marketing, to entrepreneurship, to selling, to persuasion. For example, if you are in a client relationship and you are having communications with your clients and you're constantly apologizing to them, they're going to get a negative feeling out of it. Like you don't believe in yourself enough to be providing them value. And you're probably going to be losing client business as a result. It also matters in terms of your tone in sales calls. If you start your sales call with, "Oh, I want to thank you because I know your time is valuable, and it's a real honor that you chose to spend your time on this call." Yeah, that doesn't set the stage very well for you to actually close any kind of business on that call, because you're not conveying, by essentially apologizing for the time that they're spending on the call, you're not conveying that what you have is immensely valuable and well worth every minute that they're going to spend on that call learning about it. For example, you talk to me about my copywriting services, or about my coaching, or about any kind of consulting that I might do with you on marketing, and like I consider it to be well invested time, no matter how much time you spend with me, no matter how much you might actually spend to get on the call with me, right? I consider that to be very well invested time that's going to pay you back many multiples of whatever kind of time, energy, or resource or money investment you put into it. And all that value that I'm going to give you easily justifies you spending that time with me. And there is a tone and a disposition and an attitude to that belief that, hey, this is going to be worth many times over every minute that you put into this conversation. It's going to be worth many times over that to you. Well, that's going to come through, and it's going to make me more attractive to closing any kind of sale that I may try to make on that call. And the same kind of voice and tone shows up in copywriting and marketing. If you're constantly apologizing for asking for money, apologizing for your product, saying, "Oh, I know you work hard for your money, and so I would appreciate if you consider investing it in this product or this service." That, like, it is one thing to say, "Hey, when you invest your hard-earned money, it's important that you get a great return." And my whatever is designed to give you that great return and be an incredible investment, versus, "Oh, I know, maybe like when you're investing your money, you're concerned about not like getting value out of it, and I think maybe if you try my product it might get you that value, and I don't know." Right? Like there's a tone and a disposition to all of this that comes through. As far as, are you apologetic? Are you persistently, consistently, constantly apologetic for everything that you're doing and asking for? Or do you withhold your apologies until it's really important? Like, "Oh, hey, I screwed up. And I just wanted to let you know, like, I recognize this is my mistake. It's my error. I'm working to fix it. And I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry for that." Like, that's a legitimate apology. Like, I messed up and I'm fixing it and I'm sorry, right? Versus apologizing for every little thing, even before the fact, apologizing for existing. And what I would say is, even if it's cultural, especially if it's cultural, it behooves you to pay attention to when and where you use apologies, when and where you use both the overt apologies and the more subtle apologies, where your disposition conveys that you're apologizing, even if your specific words are not an apology. Pay attention to that and really try to discern whether your apology in this situation is an apology that is valid and warranted and represents a mistake that was made and a need to fix the behavior, and then consider any action steps that you need to take to repair the relationship and to fix the behavior. Or if you're just apologizing because, you don't feel good enough, because you don't feel worthy, because you don't feel valuable, because whatever. And then maybe there is a lesson in that. Maybe you do need to be providing more value, but maybe part of it is you do need to just recognize that, you are worthy, you are valuable. You're not inherently flawed and not worthy of, people spending time with you. And so apologize way less in that type of situation, and reserve apologies for when they really matter, and then use them with complete sincerity, and give them the gravity that a real apology deserves. That's my lesson for you today. That's my thought. That's my reflection. And honestly, like if you adopt this is a much deeper principle than any kind of superficial marketing tactics or systems or frameworks or whatever. But if you adopt this approach to apologies and focus on only apologizing when you really do need to apologize, the way that changes you as a person will make you a more effective communicator, a more effective persuader, a more effective salesperson or copywriter, a more effective entrepreneur, a more effective leader, a more effective boss, a more effective team member. It will make you more effective in personal relationships. It will make you more effective in professional relationships. You will get more of what you want in life. People will respect you more, and everything will work out better. And it is kind of a long-term thing, and it involves sometimes some harder inner work to figure out, like, what are the feelings behind my constant apologizing. And it's work that I've been doing on myself for, I don't know, at least the last 2 decades. And it's not always easy. And yet, if you can do it, it does really change things, and it gives you much greater personal power. And that you can use towards achieving whatever goal you want. So I'm Roy Furr. This is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Let me know in the comments below, number one, how valuable you found this on a scale of 1 to 10, and why. What are your action items? What are your takeaways? Do you think that you need to apologize more or apologize less? Do you catch yourself doing this? Just, share, comment, have a conversation in the comments below, and let me know. Also, tap that like button before you go so you get more content like this delivered to you, and so the magical algorithms of the internet will share it with more people like you who will find it valuable. You can certainly share it with folks directly, and subscribe before you go. You can subscribe here. You can also go to breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com, get my daily emails Monday through Friday, including episode notifications and more exclusive content. Primarily, the content is for copywriter entrepreneurs and marketers, people who are in the trenches doing marketing. And a lot of times I'm talking about copywriting and marketing. And yet all of this, like who we are as copywriters, marketers, entrepreneurs, is often a bigger factor in our success. And when we can grow as individuals, oftentimes that growth will be reflected in our business, in our career success. And so sometimes my content is more like this, more personal development oriented. So again, I'm Roy Furr. This is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Always aim for 10 out of 10 value. I hope I've delivered it here, and I will catch you again in the next episode. See you soon. Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.